Welcome to podcast number 2 of AllStreet Investing. If you don't know who I am, my name is Datu Adiemo. I just talk about basically finances and money all the time. And hopefully one of my lessons or some of my lessons that I've learned throughout my life can basically be like a little pathway onto what you guys can learn and maybe better yourself with your own finances. So this is just like, this podcast is really just a run-of-the-mill type of video. You know, it's nothing super edited, just completely like honest truth, what's coming out of my head. Nothing scripted, just something I learned throughout the days, and maybe like all this truth that I'm saying that you guys will hear can probably benefit you, and then pass on the knowledge. So today's topic basically is about saving, right? Now I'm not talking about like the generic saving that everybody wants you to to have in your head, like, oh, put your money in your savings account and don't touch it, and then it'll grow exponentially, and then you'll have so much money in the future. That is somewhat true, but like the way that people are telling you or telling the generation nowadays, especially millennials, because I am a millennial, is just like damn, like, can y'all give us a little bit of more information on how this works? And to be honest, I had to go through a lot of research on my own to understand how the rich save and how they continually are able to make money strictly from their savings accounts. So if you're trying to be financially savvy, if you're trying to be financially stable or financially independent like me, then get your notebook, write down some notes, because whether you're listening to this in a car or you're working out or you're just sitting on your YouTube chair, this is honestly the truth of saving. Okay, let's start. No more gassing up. Let's start it up. Okay, number one, these banks that we know about, that we see on commercials. I'm gonna name a few because I'm on the East Coast of America. Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, TD Bank, PNC, Bank of America. Like when you have a savings account attached to your checkings account, right? You guys should really read the fine print that you have to, obviously sign when you open up a savings account. And in that fine print, they tell you about the interest that you're going to be getting annually, right? And most of these interests that they tell you that they're going to give you are so negligible. If you don't know what negligible means, it means like it's damn near close to zero. That no matter how much money you have in that account, no matter how much times you do not touch it, it's not going to grow. It's negligible. It's negligible. Because here, I'll list the ways that people end up losing money, and then I'll list the ways where people are losing money, like based on their own not knowing, and then I'll list the ways that people are able to save money by us people not knowing, right? So follow this. Number one, when you have a savings account attached to your savings account, and most people at this day in this digital age have an application, right, of their bank. If you have Bank of America, you have the Bank of America app. TD Bank, you have the TD Bank app. Chase, you have the Chase Bank app. Whatever corner store bank you have that you can drive into and do transactions, you most likely have an application. And when money's running low in your checkings account, right, the first thing that you're going to do is find out how much money you have in your savings account, right? And I don't know what your spending habits are. Emergencies happen, but if an emergency is constantly happening in your life, and you're living within a state of emergency, you have to change up where you're living or how you're living, but that's the first thing that's got to go. You know what I mean? Because what ends up happening, you put all the money that you had in your savings account into your checkings account. And so the savings account number becomes your checkings account number, and then you start spending your checkings account number, and it starts heading towards zero, right? Even with the bank even warning you or even helping you lose money, you're already losing money because you're spending. You know what I mean? Budgeting is such a simple task, but that's another podcast, right? So savings, right? When you have money in your savings account and you're not getting anything of this thing called interest on top of your savings, you end up losing way more money because of depreciation. I don't know if you guys know what depreciation is, but depreciation is a real powerful thing in this country. And it basically says, I'll give you, the consensus and the conceptual idea of it. And it basically means is that the value of a dollar is going down annually. Like, it's going down very, very fast. I think it's about 2% on average, the power of a dollar is going down. So if you have a dollar in your savings account, congratulations. Next year, on the same day, you'll have the buying power of 98 cents. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have $100,000 in your savings account and depreciation hits, you have the buying power of $98,000. You just lost $2,000 there simply because simply because the value of the dollar is going down, and there's no way to counteract that, right? You don't know how to counteract that. So these corner store banks that I mentioned before, they don't really give you any interest to counteract the 2% of the dollar going down to reverse it going back up, right? So you're losing money because of your spending habits, and then you end up losing money because of depreciation. You know what I mean? And all these things add up into this whole cycle of you living within zero to your paycheck. And it's such a sick, twisted, tactic that they don't tell you about, because to be honest, it's not their fault. Like, them withholding information, or no, us not reading information on the fine print, or us not caring about the information on the fine print is not their fault. It's really our fault that we're not socially aware or physically aware of what they're actually telling us is happening, right? It's right there, but we don't necessarily read it. I just took the time out to read it. So what ends up happening is that you basically lose money on all fronts, right? Regardless of how much money you have in there. You can have $1 million in your savings account in Chase Bank or TD Bank or Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Wachovia, which is basically the same thing. And you'll end up losing money simply because you don't have interest to counteract the 2% of depreciation, right? So all this whole nonsense that's happening every day, you spend money everywhere, you switch your savings to your checkings, depreciation hits. Can you guys, come on. How quickly does a number go to zero as soon as it gets into your checkings account? How quickly does that happen? It happens so lightning fast. So lightning fast that it's damn near embarrassing. I wouldn't want anyone to look at what my checkings account was 3-4 years ago, because I was making good money back then and I had nothing. Well, I had nothing to show for it. I had nothing to show for it. So, depreciation's a real thing, right? So the next question basically is that how are you able to counteract depreciation so that they give you enough interest so that your money goes up, right, instead of it going down? Now, number one, the sad truth is you have to switch your bank. You have to. There's no way around it. If your bank is not giving you any money for you putting your money in the bank, you're losing it. You're losing money. All they're doing is holding it for you. You having money in one of these banks that don't give you anything for interest is the same thing as you having money in a shoebox. That's it. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? You might as well just put your money in a sock drawer and chill, because they're not going to give you, that's the same thing. At least you know where it is physically. So you have to change your bank. You have to change your bank. That's the number one. You have to change your bank. You have to now go look for banks, and I'm going to tell you guys some banks. You're going to have to now go look for banks that have these interest rates that are higher than what depreciation is taking away from you. And this is where the rich people start doing it, right? The rich people will go out of their way and they'll look for banks that are giving them the highest amount of interest, right? Sometimes it can even be overseas, where they'll give you 10-15% interest on your money, 20% interest on your money, simply for keeping it in there. Now, I don't suggest you guys do that, but some banks overseas will give you hella interest just because you have your money there, because it helps them start their own bank up. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is that, number one, switch your bank, right? Switch your bank. That's number one. If it's not giving you at least 2.2% interest, if it's not giving you at least 2% interest, you're losing money. Number two, open up a new bank. Switch your bank and then open up a new one. Here are some banks that will help you. Here's some banks that give you interest, right? Here's some banks on top of my head that gives me, or that will give you interest for all the money that you've been putting in there. So, I heard Ally Bank, ALLY Bank, right? Ally Bank is an online bank. There's no physical stores, and they give you, I believe, 2.08% interest. Don't quote me on that though. I think by the time this video, or I'm recording this video, it's 2.08%. So all of the money that you have in your savings account with these corner store banks, you can move it over to Ally Bank, and then every month they're going to give you interest on top of your whatever money you have in there, and you're going to start seeing your money slowly grow. This is so important. I'll get to it very quickly, but that is so important. So Ally Bank, I think, is 2.08. You have your money just grow just by sitting there. You know what I mean? Another bank, this is the one that I personally use, Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Very nice bank, online bank. They give me 2.15 interest. And so anytime I have money in there that I just chill and keep in there, I'm getting 2.15 interest annually, APY, right? And so my money is steadily growing without even me knowing how to do anything about it. You know what I mean? Just keeping it in there makes me money. Just keeping it in there makes me money. Again, another tactic I'm about to explain. And then another one that I've been seeing on apps and marketing and Facebook ads and Instagram ads and YouTube ad revenue or whatever is called Wealthfront. Wealthfront gives you 2.57% interest, which is literally higher than depreciation. All those banks I just listed are higher than depreciation. So as depreciation lowers your bank account by the value of $1, the interest rate keeps your money up higher than depreciation. Therefore, you're profiting. You're no longer losing anything. You're just profiting, right? So the rich people, I always, some people, I'm not gonna lie. Some rich people are corrupt. Some rich people are actually really smart and not corrupt. And I like to focus on the ones that are not corrupt, obviously, because I don't want to be corrupt. And this is what they do. I want you guys to listen to this carefully. When rich people earn any type of income, right? Any type of income, what they will most likely do is put that money into an interest-bearing account, whether it be dividends or high interest rates. Something is giving them money on top of the money they already put in there, right? So, for example, I'm just going to do some calculations on my computer to show you guys some actual numbers. Because, what's the baseline for a rich person? Like, what's the minimum number that most Americans think you need to be or need to have for you to be wealthy, right? It's $1 million. So let's just say some millionaire puts $1 million inside of Wealthfront, right? They put $1 million inside of Wealthfront that gives you 2.57% annually, which means that if you divide 2.57 divided by 12, they're giving you about 0.21% interest monthly on top of your principal. So 0.21, right? That's 2.57 divided by 12. If you multiply 0.21 times $1 million, right? Times $1 million, every single month that they have $1 million, guys, it's gonna ruin your heads. They put $1 million into Wealthfront that gives them 2.57% annually, right? And so if you break it down, it's 0.214. If you have $1 million inside of a Wealthfront savings account and they give you 0.214% interest on top of your $1 million monthly, you are getting an extra $214,166 simply for keeping your money in there. Now, this is what rich people do. They only spend the interest. It is so maniacally tactical that I just have to respect it. If you have $1 million in your savings account and they're giving you $214,000 a month on top of your $1 million, your new salary per month is $214,000. And hopefully you don't have that much expenses for you to be spending $214,000 monthly. Because if you just don't spend that much, the next recurring month, you're going to have more money in that account, and it's going to give you another 0.216 or 0.214% interest on your $1 million, plus the $214,000 you just got the last month. Like, I gotta speak about infinity in my next podcast. I have to speak about infinity in my next podcast. Guys, that's a lot of money. I want you guys to know that's a lot of money. $214,000 monthly is your new income simply because you have $1 million in your bank account. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, the questions are how you get $1 million. I mean, there's different ways to get $1 million. Earn it, save it, work for it. Who knows? Whatever. What you got to do. But the whole process of saving money and then profiting on the interest is what makes people continued to be rich, continuing to be wealthy, continuing to be in a surplus. Because who's really going to spend $214,000 in a month? Like, what are you eating? Energy? like what are you eating? What are you drinking? That's a big budget. And if you go through that, right? Even if you go through half of it, you still have money left over for the next month. And so over time, every single month that you don't spend all that interest, guess what's going to happen the next month? You're going to be getting more money the next month, and then more money the next month, and then more money the next month, and then more money the next month, until a point where 5 months later, because it's about $200,000. 5 months later, you made another $1 million. You made another $1 million. 5 months later, because $214,000 times 5 is about $1 million. Simply because oh my God, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how this works, right? So what ends up happening is that number one, you have to find an account. You have to find an account that gives you more than 2% interest every single year. Way more than that. You have to find that. Some accounts give you 2. I've seen accounts that give you 3 or 4. But you have to find something at least above 2. Second, don't touch your money. That savings account is supposed to be untouchable. It's supposed to be like, if I'm burning alive right now and I need money to get some water, second guess your savings account. Second guess your savings account. Use your credit card first, but second guess your savings account, because that money and that interest can pile up so high in the future that you don't have to work anymore. If ever a time the interest that they give you, the interest in dollars that they give you is higher than what you're making annually, you don't have to work anymore. That makes sense? You don't have to work anymore. There's so many ways for you not to work in this country simply by just having money. You know what I mean? It's not even just by having $1 million. It's just by having money in general. But it's not necessarily how much you have that really determines whether or not you will work. It's how quickly you're getting it. Your income, your cash flow. How fast are you getting the money to you so that you don't have to work for the next week coming up or the next month coming up? You know what I mean? And how big of it. But like I will choose rate over size any day, right? Like, if you're giving me an account that grows double every day, I don't care if you offer me $10 million. If you offer me $10 million flat or $1 that doubles every day, I'm picking the $1 that doubles every day. Because sooner or later, that $1 that doubles every day will be higher than $10 million. You know what I mean? It's the rate of which it grows. So you have to find a bank that gives you a high interest rate. That way you're able to get so much money. I'm talking to all these millennials out here, Gen Zs who are growing up. Money is such an idea. Money is such an idea, but no one has that afterthought. Money is such an idea, but no one has that afterthought. You have to be able to become money if you want to be to keep it. You need to become money. You got to know how money thinks. You got to know how money moves. You got to know how money acts for you to understand where money is going and where money can come from. You know what I mean? Like, people, I'm going to end it soon, but people who know what money is, it's genetic. It's genetic to them. Like, energy is biologically genetic, but money is socially genetic. You need to understand money, otherwise you're not genetically able to survive. That's just it. You don't have money, you don't have options. You don't have options, you don't have choices. You don't have choices, you're trapped. You're trapped. You know what I mean? You need to have this mind state of where is money coming from. And the first thing you do, the most simple tactic of having money is saving it. But not only saving it, but saving it in an interest-bearing savings account that will give you way more money than what these banks are offering you. You know what I mean? And no shade to any of the banks I mentioned today, but if people really wanted to make money from you guys, they would have. You know what I mean? So, takeaway points for today: put your money in an interest-bearing savings account. Don't touch it, and keep on feeding it, and watch how that interest will grow over time. Watch how that interest will grow over time. Just watch. It takes time, but it's worth it. And anything that can make itself overnight will break itself overnight. You know what I mean? Woo! I guess I had to get that message out. All right, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little podcast. Remember, I don't know if I'm going to make a schedule about this, but every time I leave the podcast, I want you guys to just understand that everything I'm saying can be researched. You can do it yourself, and you can start. Don't let my words be an echo. Let it be a direction to where you guys have to go. You know what I mean? Because I'm doing it too, and I want to be an example to you guys. So, as I leave this podcast today, remember AllStreet investing, and also remember that confirmed profit is infinitely better than potential profit. Confirmed profit is infinitely better than potential profit. I'll see you guys in the next podcast. All right.